What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to, where are we? Episode
Uh,
173 of the Designated Players Podcast. We are here today to talk about the,
Talk
I
about
guess,
pissing more
the
people off.
shadow of the GOAT. Is that what we want to call him?
The shadow of the goat.
Yeah, the shadow. I mean, he's not like the GOAT, right? The GOAT plays in MLS.
True.
This guy takes dirty Saudi oil money to lose 5-0 to every team that he plays that isn't in Saudi Arabia. Okay. So if you can't tell by now, we are talking about our friend Cristiano Ronaldo and some of the things that he has mentioned about the Saudi Pro League. We're just going to give our opinions. They're definitely not going to be biased in any one way, shape, or form. Um, Connor, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited for this one.
This one, I'm sure. I bet you, being the nerd that you are, have like 70 different little data points. They're all going to correlate together.
I was definitely not pulling up transfer data points right before we started this.
Oh,
Never.
that's fun. I know you were dying to figure this out, but I'm also doing okay. Um, we've got MLS on the countdown today, playing in Leagues Cup. We got Red Bull on my left or over here, uh, and we've got the podcast on my right. So it's a good day to have a good day, you know. But it's also a really good day to show off some scarves. Connor, what are you rocking today?
I brought out the scarf of the real goat playing in the real superior league. It's upside down, but Inter Miami. I still have it
Well,
too. Let's go.
yeah, I mean, what else are we gonna do? I wasn't gonna pull up. So what I wanted to do, and I don't have it, but this is the next one on the list because it's been relatively frequent over the last couple of episodes. I was gonna pull a Sporting KC one because he almost went to
Thought
Kansas
about
City,
that too.
but
Yeah.
I
I
don't
don't
have
have one
one.
though.
Yeah, so that's next one on the list for sure. Um, you know what? Let's just dive into it. No more waffling. We did our waffle last episode. Cristiano Ronaldo making headlines this past week saying that the Saudi Pro League is miles clear of MLS. He is miles clear of Messi because of all the players that are definitely following him to the Saudi League and doesn't mention the $200 million contract, but that's okay. Um, is he right? Is he wrong? Does it really matter? We'll chat about it all in this episode. So make sure you stick around. Our boy, Mr. Stewie, is hype AF, as the kids would say, because Messi stays being the GOAT and he fades off into obscurity. So he takes to an interview after a 5-0 beatdown in preseason to say that the Saudi Arabian League is still miles clear of MLS because of all the new players coming to the league. He goes on to say that the EPL is the only good league in Europe these days and that he'll never go back there and he'll never join MLS. He referenced how Serie A was dead before he showed up and he revived them. Um, Thoughts?
That's kind of a bold statement to say that you revived an entire league. That's pretty wild. I think it almost feels like his star is starting to fizzle out and he's trying to grasp onto whatever little bits of the top he can before he goes out.
I love that because that's exactly what I thought. You could see it's a desperation, like, don't forget about me. I'm still here.
It's so funny seeing like the difference between him and Messi because both just made moves away from Europe.
Right.
Ronaldo's like frantically trying to stay afloat above water, being like, my league's amazing. Look at the inspiration I've brought and all the players that are coming here because of me. And I saved all these leagues in Europe and all these clubs would be nothing without me. Meanwhile, Messi's just like loving the fact that he can go to the supermarket and like buy cereal with his kids and not be mobbed in the streets. He's just having a good time living life.
Living it.
He doesn't
Well,
care.
it's so funny. Like you see the differences in post game interviews, right? So I mentioned that was part of an interview after he got beat 5-0. Messi got an interview at the end of uh, the game yesterday, and I wanna get a quote because I Messi post game comments Miami because I'm fairly certain. I saw something, but it might not be. But Messi, being the greatest player in the world, watches two of his defenders go down with injuries. One of them being a kid who probably uh, has his season done for. And one of the first things he says, like, I want to just say that this was a really good game for Ian Fry, and I hope he gets better really soon. Like, I don't think Ronaldo has mentioned one of his non-superstar teammates once
Do
in
you think
any
he even
interview.
knows anybody in his back line?
I was gonna say that, but I thought it might be a little bit crazy. But yeah, like he's just sitting there, like, yeah, listen, I scored a goal. I'm happy my team got the result they wanted to get. I think we looked really good. There's a lot to move up on, whatever. And Ronaldo's like, look at me, I'm still playing. Like, what are we doing, man? Like, I'm almost glad he didn't come here because I don't want that associated with this league. We're not like that, man.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I think it would be different if he came here and Messi also came here because he wouldn't have to try so hard to keep the spotlight on him because the spotlight would just follow because it would just be Messi versus Ronaldo again, which I think people were hoping would happen. Um, so I would hope that it wouldn't be as bad.
I mean, joking aside, right? I'm not actually too bothered by what he has to say. It doesn't matter to me. He's getting paid $200 million a year. I'm pretty sure he's going to defend his league. I'm sure he would say the same thing if he was in Europe. I'm sure he probably did say things when he was playing for Madrid about the EPL or EP or when he was playing for Juve about France or whatever, right? I'm sure every time you play for somebody who is paying you lots of money, you are going to defend. So I don't really care. But obviously, and this is going to be an easy kind of softball pitch to you. So, grip up on the bat and get ready for this one. Are the players actually going there to play with Ronaldo? Is he having the type of pull that he says he is?
I think he started the movement, but I don't certainly don't think that they're going there just to have the chance to play against or with Ronaldo. I think we know the real reason why everybody's moving there, and it's the dollar signs in the eyes.
Yeah, so that is exactly where my brain is. The Saudi government pays people $200 million a year to go play in their league. I saw something on Twitter that they are paying a company car, uh, full housing and food, and then 3 to 5K a month to be a third division Saudi player.
I almost think I think it was even higher than that. It was like 5 to 6K a month or something.
Was it? I thought I might have been
It was
going.
something outrageous. Like it would be like upper middle class in the United States to play in like the Saudi fourth division.
Yeah, like I wonder why people are making that move, right? None of these guys are in their prime either. They're just trying to get eyes on the league, very similar to what the Chinese Super League did. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, Messi's in his prime. We're so far clear, right? But the Chinese Super League did the same thing with Oscar, Talisca, Hulk. I mean, you remember that whole big movement.
Mhm.
And what happened? Nothing. We did what we did. China. Do people still play in China?
I don't know. It really got quiet over there. That's all I'll
Yeah.
say.
Well, and that's my point, right? Nobody quite followed them around. Uh, I remember that the whole point of having them over there was to increase um, eyes on the league and involvement so that they can, raise the level of their national team. Um, they have had one national team appearance ever in the World Cup, and that's in 2002. Um, 0 goals for. Cool. 9 goals against, and they got absolutely bounced. That being said, Saudi Arabia is in a better spot. I actually mentioned it during the World Cup that I think that was a league to keep an eye on. I mean, they beat Argentina and Lionel Messi, but with all players from the Saudi league, a lot of those players were very, very decent. So I think that it's way better than what they give it credit for. But I don't think people are moving there to play with one player like Busquets, Alba, anybody else coming is probably coming to play with Messi because they're not getting that sort of payment.
100%. One
But
hundred percent.
yeah, but I don't. I think the whole thing is like, oh, Ronaldo's there. That's kind of cool. Oh, you're gonna throw $50 million at me when I was making four. See you in a little bit, buddy. Book my flight. Let's go. Like silly money. I mean, who was it? Was it Koulibaly who came out and was like, Yeah, I'm just gonna be straight up. They offered me so much money, I couldn't say no. Right? Like my family is first priority always. I think Ruben Neves said that too. My family is priority one, always and forever. So if somebody's gonna pay me a lot of money to do the same thing in a country here than it would be in England, see ya. Do you think that so to go back to his second point,
Mhm.
is Saudi Arabia better than MLS? Do you think that where they're at right now with all the players they brought in that they're a better team, they're a better league?
I'm going to say this without a biased bone in my body. No, they're not better. I think MLS has a system, they have a structure, they have a plan. Saudi Arabia is just throwing money and trying to get whoever they can in. I know you mentioned this before, kind of as a joke, but I did pull up like the transfer. I wanted to look at the transfer numbers for Saudi Arabia MLS, and I pulled up China as well.
Mm-hmm.
The similarities between China and Saudi Arabia are striking. It's exactly the same basically as what China had done. All of their top transfers for China was in like that 2015 to like 2017 time period. They brought in guys in their prime. They brought in Oscar. He was like 25 when he came in. Hulk came in. He was 29. Paulinho 30. Jackson Martinez 29. Like these guys were still big names. Yannick Carrasco 24. Like these guys were. You're not bringing in guys that were even like in retirement mode. They were coming over because they were getting huge paychecks. So this is just feeling like the exact same thing. The top transfers for the Saudi league on transfer market, the 1 through 7 was all in this offseason. And they brought in guys in their prime, just like China did. Ruben Neves, Milinkovic Savic, Jota, Seko Fofana. Like there's
I
good
didn't even
players
know
that they
half
brought
of
in.
those people made the move because I said that they were all retired. I didn't realize half of those people even went.
Yeah, I definitely heard a lot about Jota and Neves because that's everybody's argument. They're like, if you say anything about like, oh, they're bringing like 38-year-old Ronaldo, 35-year-old Neves, like all these players that are past it, they'll be like, oh, well, they brought in Ruben Neves and Jota, and they're young and they're playing well, which is great. And credit where it's due. Like Ruben Neves is a top player, and they brought him in at his prime to play in their league, and I think that's great for them. But it's exactly like China. And where to the exact point you made before, where's the Chinese league now? None of their top arrivals are still there's I'm scrolling through right now. Out of the top 25, none of them there are zero transfers from 2020 or later in their top 25 record arrivals.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't able to sustain it. There was no sustainability. And I think it's going to be the exact same thing here. You brought in some great players, Ruben Neves, Milinkovic Savic. Like these are guys that are in their prime. They're pretty big names, but I don't think they're going to be able to just continue to do this forever. You're not going to see Kev De Bruyne go move from Man City right now to go play in the Saudi League because he could still make tons of money and he could play with the best of the best and be on the highest stage. And also, I took a look at departures, like sales. Like, that to me is where I see sustainability. That to me shows a league that's going to be able to continue to sell and continue to reinvest. And the Saudi Pro League, in terms of just numbers, definitely is lower than MLS. But the biggest thing for me was where they were selling their players. So, for one, in their top 10 sales that they've made, it's about 50-50 as to sales during or later than 2020 and sales before 2020. Their top 4 are all from 2015 or earlier. So it was like a long time back. Their highest actually past that point, number 5, funny enough, was to FCC. They're the brand new player that they brought in.
Bupen,
Yeah,
Bupenza?
Bupenza.
Yeah,
Yeah. He's the number 5 record
that's
departure for the Saudi
crazy.
League. But if you look at the teams that they've sold to, 90% of them are all from 2020 or later. In their top 4 are all from 2015 or earlier. So it was like a long time back. Their highest actually past that point, number 5, funny enough, was to FCC. They're the brand new player that they brought in. But if you look at the teams that they've sold to, You have to go down to number 12 to find the first like European team that they sold to, and it's Granada. It's not a big team. They've sold majority of their top 10 sales are within the Saudi Pro League. There's one to MLS, there's one to Liga MX, there's one to Brazil, and there's one to the United Arab Emirates. The rest are all within the Saudi Pro League. And then if you go look at MLS, for example, look at their top 10 departures. Newcastle, Aston Villa, Augsburg, funnily enough, Al Nassr,
No,
Bayern.
that's PT.
Yeah, that's PT.
Yeah.
Bayern, RB Salzburg, Chelsea, West Brom, Watford, Villarreal. And if I go a little bit first past that, past the top 10, it's Roma, Man City, Wolfsburg, Arsenal. Like the names, these are the top teams in the world. MLS is selling to the top teams and the top leagues in the world. And they're going to continue to be able to do that because they've built a sustainable system here. So MLS is going to outlast Saudi Arabia. They're going to continue to improve and they're going to continue to be better than Saudi Arabia. And that doesn't change because you've brought in a couple of players in their prime and a couple of players who were massively declining.
I think that, like I said, I'm a numbers guy. You know that. I think that's a great point. Oh, our boy Kaku's on the list. Awesome.
Yeah, Kaku was on the list.
But
They
that's the
just
thing.
sold him to
I don't know
UAE.
I don't know any of these players. Um, and I'm sure not a lot of people know the MLS players either. I'm not trying to you know, highlight that we're massive globally, right?
Now,
But
you know some of those players. Alfonso Davies is the best left back in the world.
correct. And like I said, I know some of them, but I'm not trying to say that MLS is so far clear that we're massive worldwide. But I think you put up a really good point where look at the leagues that are looking at us versus looking at them and look at how they're looking at us, right? Saudi Arabia is the purchaser from the Euro League for anybody that they want. Where the Euro leagues are looking at us to take our players, right? And you can argue one way or the other that one's better than the other. Personally, I'd rather be the one that's developing and selling because, as you mentioned, that's sustainable. Unless the Saudi government wants to take all of their oil money and put it into buying players from overseas and trying to make it work, go for it. But I agree with you that the longevity of it is better supported by being the seller versus the buyer.
What are
Um,
they? What are they going to do? They could just are they just going to continue to throw money and try to convince people to come over? That's what China tried to do. It didn't work for them. I just don't see it working this time. I don't know. I don't think 38-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo, as much as he may think it in his mind, is going to change that.
Correct. And as I mentioned, right, I think the Saudi League is better than what people give it credit for, right? I don't watch it, you don't watch it. Most people don't watch it. However, based off of their World Cup performance and the way that I've seen them play, I think that they are better than what they are. And I also believe that their top teams are probably better than MLS's top teams because they're literally funded by the Saudi government. They are buying the top, I think it's the top four teams. It's like Al Hilal, Al Ittihad, and then two others are government controlled, and the government is just handing them hundreds of millions of dollars to buy players. You are going to bring in some serious talent there. If you put that team that took Koulibaly, Milinkovic Savic, Ronaldo, like all those guys together, you put up against LAFC, it's close. I think they might get out. It might be a 7-3 split in the best of 10, 6-4. But I do think that they're a little bit better. But as you mentioned, and one of the things that I see, it's a spread between top to bottom. And that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand is when you're comparing these teams like the Championship, Belgian Pro League, Scotland, all these teams that are second tier, everybody thinks of those leagues as two teams, maybe three, and then completely disregard the bottom half, which are nowhere near what they probably should be. And Saudi Arabia is the same way. You can see that it really doesn't mean anything either that the government is running these teams because Ronaldo didn't win the league last year. He got walked by a La Liga team in preseason, which he himself called not a good league.
Mhm. They just to add on top of that, they also got walked by a Portuguese team. They got beat 4-1 by Benfica.
Jesus. And again, top teams, right? Benfica's a top team in Portugal, and I think it was Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo is not a great team, and they're not a bad team. If you put the top team in MLS versus the top team in Saudi Arabia, like I mentioned, Saudi Arabia probably wins. But if you put the number 6 team in MLS against the number 6 team in Saudi Arabia, it's not even close. Like MLS walks. If you're telling me I need to pick between, let's just pull it up here.
I want to add something in
Go
because I
ahead, you
just
do
found
that.
this and I think it's hilarious.
Do it.
Celta Vigo, the same team that just beat Ronaldo's team 5-0, played against San Jose in July of 2022. This is back when San Jose was garbage, by the way, for those that don't know. It was 1-1. So all I'm saying is San Jose managed to draw when they were one of the worst teams in MLS. Meanwhile, Ronaldo's team, who was second place in the Saudi League, got smashed 5-0.
So
I rest my case.
So the current, I'm gonna have to change this because the current number 6 team in the Supporters Shield standings is LAFC, and we've used them already. So I'll go to Nashville. If you're asking me, would I pick Nashville over Al Fetteha, whose best player according to Transfer Market is, I'm sorry, Al Fate. I pronounced that incorrectly, and I apologize. Oh, there was a dash in there. I had to put a dash in there. Whose best player is market valued at $3 million. Also has Christian Teo.
Oh,
Okay. Right. But their best player is market valued at $3 million. And then it drops off. So they've got 3 players valued over $1 million. Everybody's 800 or less. And then you look at Nashville, who's running with Hani Mukhtar, who would run that team by himself because he runs every other team by himself. Hani Mukhtar, flanked with Randall Leal, Walker Zimmerman, Sean Davis, Jack Mayer. I mean, we all know where Jack Mayer lives, and he's still tearing it up. Crazy. Jack Moore in there. Like the vast majority of MLS teams outside of those top 4 are so far clear. And that is the conversation needs to be had. Are we going to sit here and say, oh, the top 4 teams make up a league? Because I think that's disingenuous, but I don't know. I'm saying that it's not really clear in terms of league versus league, top versus top, and it's always been this way, has been tough. Our top teams are likely not as good as other league top teams because of the parity, because of the roster rules, whatever you want to claim it to. But our middle of the pack, hell, our number 6 versus anybody else's number 6, miles clear.
I don't even think necessarily that the top Saudi teams would be better than MLS teams. They have a couple of big players. Like if I just pulled up, I think it's Al Hilal.
Mm-hmm.
They were the top team in terms of value. That's mainly because they brought in Neves and Milinkovic-Savic, who have 90 million in value between the two of them. That's only 2 players.
Right.
Their next highest is Koulibaly. And I'm a Chelsea fan. I watched Koulibaly last season. He was dreadful. You're not bringing in an in-prime straight from Napoli Kalidou Koulibaly. You're bringing in 32-year-old Koulibaly who just came off a dreadful season with Chelsea. So this team, I think it's completely possible that MLS teams could compete and beat the top teams in the Saudi League.
So
and then the argument is completely gone for the Saudi League because our bottom teams realistically should walk the bottom teams in Saudi Arabia.
Correct. And here's the thing. I'm thinking like the bottom teams are likely as bad as the bottom teams in Saudi Arabia, right? Like there's probably one team in MLS that is just so bad. I'm not going to drop names, but likely so bad that anybody could beat them on any given day, right? But you had mentioned the way I see those top teams right now is that they're being run very, very similarly to MLS teams, right? They've got 4 or 5 good players. The rest are kind of the bang average. Like we have a bunch of DPs and the rest are good average, right? So that's why I'm saying I think the top teams are, and I'm not saying they blow them out. I'm not saying it's 10-0 over, 4 games. Like, it's not even close. I think it's close, but I think that the top players have the better chance to be successful, right? So those big name players have the better chance to make an impact. And again, the biggest thing that I've noticed is you don't see a lot of strikers or attacking players going there, to my knowledge.
No,
Right.
I think
So
that's accurate.
so
Except
you're
Ronaldo
right.
and Benzema.
Right. Those are the two big ones, but it's not like every one of those teams is getting a massive, in prime guy. It's you're asking them to be controlled from the midfield and the back, which is interesting. So yeah, I'm not super stressed. Like I said, I think it'd be close. I think I'd probably give them the edge right now. But here's the other thing: we're about to lose our roster rules. Not lose, but we're about to open them up. Game changer, game changer,
It's
and
not going
that's
to be a
not a
conversation
conversation.
at that point.
Right. That's not a conversation for today either, by the way. But that's a big topic as well.
Yeah, I still think MLS teams would, if you matched up all the teams, I guess like play them, I don't know, 10 times. I think MLS teams would still win majority of them. I think the Saudi teams could definitely be better than a bunch of MLS teams, but I still think our best would still beat their best
Right. And
in like a 10 game series.
I'm watching New England here, and I just saw them put together a passing sequence against a high pressing Red Bull side that would rival any team in any league. I mean, just so calm on the ball and moving it. But um, and it really comes down to this, right? If you're building a league, what do you want? Do you want to be top heavy? Do you want to be medium heavy? Right? And that's the difference between the two leagues right now. You say the Saudi league is better. The Saudi league is top heavy. It's got 4 teams, government
Extremely top heavy, by the
right.
way.
4 teams, government controlled. The second you get to team 5, team 6, fall off the face of the earth. Where MLS, because of the way that we were structured, is median heavy. The middle group of our teams it's large, right? We've got a large median, and they're all relatively successful and strong.
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to do that? And again, you can argue one way or the other, which I've seen people all over the place argue, super teams make great leagues. That's why England is so good. That's why Spain is so good, because Real Madrid and Barcelona. I disagree. I don't like watching leagues like that, because outside of this year, nearly every single European league is done by February, give or take, right? Bundesliga is usually done by Christmas. There's no reason to even watch it, except for this year. This year was a good year. I can go back and track it, but you always end up with the same 3 or 4 teams in the mix. It's boring. And that's why top heavy isn't exciting for me. Where our league, median heavy, everybody's got a chance. It's more exciting that way, to me personally. Again, some people may disagree. I don't care. I truly don't care. So
Yeah, it's very interesting looking at the makeup of the Saudi team's value. And obviously transfer market value is like, it's subjective. Like they just come up with it. It doesn't necessarily mean that like there is actually this team is better than that team just because they have. I mean, Inter Miami is the most valuable team according to transfer market right now. They are literally the worst team in MLS at the moment. So
yep, very fair.
But I do think it gives a good valuation of like, generally speaking, the difference between levels and teams. And exactly to the point you were making, I just want to, because I'm a numbers guy and I'm a numbers nerd, I'm going to put some numbers to it. The value of the top 3 Saudi teams is 140 million, 121 million, and 78 million. The value of the bottom 3 Saudi teams is 5.6 million, 4.8 million, and 2.7 million. Let's go to MLS. Top 3 teams: 78.6, 58.9, 52.5. Those are the top 3. Bottom 3: 31 or 32, 30, and 30. There is so much more parity between them. There's so much more competition, rivalry. It's not super top heavy, like you said. It's everybody has a chance to be the best team in any given year. Anybody has a chance to be the worst team in any given year. And
Yep.
that's never going to happen in the Saudi League.
Right. And that's by design, by the way. It's meant to be that way because you're trying to engage fans to stay around in case they are not doing well. They will come back because they have a chance next year. There's another thing people don't get in that conversation is like, oh, well, why would you not punish people for being bad? Because you're trying to grow the league. You're not trying to just plop it down and say it's going to work because yes, it should work because you like soccer. I like soccer. My buddy on Twitter likes soccer. So the league should just work, right? No. Um, that was last week's episode. We'll talk about that later. Should MLS be worried about the Saudi League spending? Should they be worried
No.
about the way that this is happening?
I think this will be a great situation because what the Saudi League is doing is essentially what some people want MLS to do in terms of just like having no financial rules and just let people spend. Because to some extent, not necessarily to the same extent, MLS could be doing the exact same thing. The money is 100% here. There are so many rich owners. I mean, go look at the amount of American owners in the Premier League. Like,
right?
If they could do the same thing here, I'm sure they would. They would just buy teams and then just go throw stupid amounts of money at people to have them come play here. So this would be a great opportunity to see if that works. We saw it once with China. It didn't work. Saudi Arabia is trying it again. Let's see if it works this time. Or this will show that MLS's system is the right way to go. Build it up slowly, earn your reputation, and then you'll work your way up to being one of the top leagues, as opposed to just snapping your fingers and jumping up so many spots because you threw every dollar you have at all these people and gave them stupid amounts of money to come here. I don't think MLS should be worried at all. Not at all. This doesn't affect them at all. Saudi Arabia is not even looking like in the same market. It's not like Saudi Arabia is like, we want to build up youth. We want to look young. We're going to go start looking in Argentina and Brazil. Like that would actually genuinely have me worried if they were doing that because they will offer them stupid amounts of money and we will lose out on, maybe the Thiago Almadas, which would be a massive loss. But they're not. They're looking at the older European players who have the reputation and the name and the marketing. So it doesn't worry me in the slightest for MLS. We are in a completely different direction, completely different bucket. We have our fans. Ronaldo saying whatever he's saying isn't going to change anything. So I'm very happy with where we are.
That is exactly what my notes here say is, who would be scared right now? MLS 2.0 would be scared because aging stars for notoriety was their go-to back in MLS 2.0. MLS 4.0, who are developing homegrown talents for tens of millions of dollars, flipping young South American talent for multiple $1 million of profit. They're not worth. Purchasing model is vastly different for 28 of the 29 teams, Miami excluded. So nobody's really worried about what Saudi Arabia is doing.
Yeah. Plus, by the way, we still can clearly pull in the big names.
Correct.
Messi,
correct.
Busquets, Alba, they're all coming here. Insigne, Bernadeschi. We still got the poll too.
Yeah, no, it's not like we're not getting anybody.
Yeah.
I think you see a big switch in how this works when the roster rule changes and see how that works. But for the most part, gone are the days where we only care about jersey sales and autographs, right? Gone are the days where we want people in the building just to watch players because the teams are there now. Like we talked about last episode, that connection is getting a little bit stronger. We don't need to worry about who comes in the door to bring the casuals in. You know what I mean? For the most part, there are obviously separations to that, right? Teams are out here to compete, to win locally, in the region, internationally. And Saudi Arabia feels like, and I say feels like because shockingly enough, I don't watch the Saudi League, but it feels like they're just simply taking the top 4 teams, making them super top heavy, trying to make super teams out of the top 4, show off to the world their shiny new toys. Oh, look at my brand new team. Look at how valuable they are. And then just kind of brush off to the side the other 12. Don't worry about them. We'll talk about them later, right? It feels like it's very much, let's try and make the world think we're important in one big effort. MLS was trying to make themselves look important to the world over 30 years. right? And that's the difference to me personally. So I also pulled up some numbers, funny enough. According
Nerd.
to don't call me a nerd. According to the 21st group, MLS is the 29th best domestic league. Okay.
Disagree.
I think that's maybe a little harsh.
29th?
Yeah. Maybe a
That's
little harsh.
outrageous.
Maybe a little harsh, but listen, we can have that conversation on another episode. The Saudi League, any guesses? I don't know if you looked this up already.
I haven't. I'll guess maybe in the 50s.
I'd say it's a good guess. Can you give me a
Wait,
number?
when was the article made? Like recently?
Just like earlier this year, like 2023.
So I'm gonna guess Saudi's probably pretty low because that was before everybody started making the jump. I'll guess in the 50s somewhere.
Give me a number.
51.
59.
Oh, I was right in the 50s, but I got the wrong number.
You were. You went to the wrong edge of it. But that's what I mean, right? Like MLS was really low. And over 30 years, they have grown themselves to this point. It wasn't because they made one drastic jump and tried to bring in all these big name stars. It's because they did it the right way.
Out
So
of curiosity, while you have that up, where's the Chinese league?
this came from an athletic article. So it's just a footnote.
Oh, okay.
But again, that big jump doesn't change to me. It might bring them up to the 51. Does it bring them to top 5? No.
No.
Well, that's what everybody keeps saying. Top 5, or top 10, top 5. No, they're not. We're not either, by the way. For everybody like, oh, MLS is top 9. 29 might be a little harsh. We're not top 10. Like, it's so silly. It's also silly. And I get it. You're supposed to like have love for your team and your league and put it up a little bit. Let's be realistic, people. Come on. We are not a top 10 league. We had this conversation before, but we're not a top 10 league. Maybe we're top 15. Realistically, we're top 20. We might be top 20, maybe 20, 21, 25.
What was the name of the article again? Who made it?
It was The Athletic. I don't know what the title was. I looked it up really quick.
Didn't you say it was a footnote from the Athletic?
No, it was just in the article.
Oh, okay.
It was an article on Ronaldo's comments, and it was just a comparison. And Dante Vanzier just missed the spitter. I'm glad we paid $6 million for you. So here's the last question of the day, so we can move on here. Does any of this matter? Does any of this nonsense really matter? Are we just talking to talk? And I mean that in the way of, does any of what we're doing, whether it be MLS's new roster rules coming or Saudi Arabia's pull for being, a massive top heavy league, does any of it really matter?
No. Sorry, I'm just remembering that I'm remembering Daddy Don had a really great quote on this. I think I found it. It's in the Athletic article that you were talking about. I think
about the league being like it's good for the entire world that they're doing this?
No.
It
was he was quoted as saying, I think this is him. I don't know if it's not, maybe it's somebody else quoted, but I think it was him. I thought I saw it on Twitter. He said, I've seen it happen with China, and I wasn't concerned about that any more than I'm concerned about what's happening in Saudi Arabia. It's quite the opposite. The fact that we can spread, maybe this is what you're saying.
Yeah.
We can spread the power and influence of professional football around the world, I think gives us all, or in emerging markets, an opportunity to think that it's not just about Europe, right? Which is a fair point. So, I mean, maybe it's almost good that the Saudi League is doing this because it's taking some eyes off of Europe for once. Not that necessarily helps us.
And that's my question is it really? Are you going to watch this league?
No. And I don't think most people will.
Right. If Apple TV said it comes with your Apple TV package,
still not watching.
On? Probably not, right?
Maybe I watch like 1 or 2 games like in the entire year, but
sure, but I'm not picking.
I'm not picking
a favorite. Yeah, I'm not picking a favorite Saudi Arabian team. Like, if they were like, "Oh, who's your new favorite Saudi?" No, 0, none. It's like watching the Messi versus, like on Twitter, scrolling through it. It was like watching the Messi versus Ronaldo debate of a 12-year-old, but with league. At the end of the day, Euro snobs who hate MLS and who think hating on MLS is a personality trait are going to say some dumb stuff about how the Saudi Arabian league is so far clear and any Saudi Arabian team can walk LAFC and FC Cincinnati 10 times out of 9. They're going to say some dumb stuff and they're going to go watch EPL anyway. Then you're going to have your American fans who are going to live and die by MLS, and they're going to come back with facts and stats and all this stuff to prove that MLS is actually not as bad as a league as everybody thinks it is, which none of the Euro snobs will actually listen to. And they're both just going to go watch soccer anyway, whether it be here or overseas. Does this influx of players mean that there's going to be more eyes on the Saudi league? No. It didn't change my desire. And realistically, I think it's a big buzz of like, oh my God, the Saudi league is going to be so good. And then nobody's actually going to watch it. From internationally, I think you've got more. I don't know what the Saudi attendance is like, but I think the Saudi Arabian attendance might peak a little bit with some of these guys. But no, if you're just gonna go get a handful of good to great players and split them up between 4 teams and say this is our league and these are the ones that we care about and anything else is gonna be whatever, doesn't really do it for me. But in the same way that Messi, Alba, and Busquets coming here doesn't pique anybody else's interest from overseas, right? Nobody's coming in like, oh, I'll watch Messi at Inter Miami. But let me rephrase that. Nobody bought MLS season pass because Lorenzo Insigne and Bernardeschi went to Toronto, right? That is kind of what I see this being is people may, whatever they do to stream that league, people may have gone there for Ronaldo. Nobody is going over there to say, I can't wait to watch Khalidou Koulibaly play in the Saudi league. In the same breath that people are not saying, I can't wait to watch, I can't even think of the latest, Christian Benteke. Great example. I can't wait to watch Christian Benteke play at DC United. No, not a single person from England turned on and subscribed to watch Christian Benteke. You have players who will move that needle. They both play in these separate leagues. Whatever impact they had, they've already had. You're not going to see anybody else. No more movement is going to change that. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. A conversation for another time, but I think people are stuck in their ways, right? If you grew up being led to believe the Premier League is the best of the best, no other league matters, you shouldn't watch anything because you only should watch the top. It does not matter how many people you buy. Saudi Arabia can literally buy the entire roster of every Premier League team, stick it in Saudi Arabia, and people still won't watch it because it's not the Prem. It's not labeled, right? Money can buy you nice things, but outside of your state walls, it will probably draw little attraction to this point. And it goes for MLS too. I mean, we're kind of taking a shot at the Saudi here, but MLS is the same way. Outside of some very big players, most people from internationally are not going to care about your league because it's just the way it is. The same reason why nobody watches European basketball or Japanese baseball or Russian hockey. Are they great leagues? Probably. But we grew up being told NBA, NHL, MLB is where all the best players play. So why bother watching anything else? It's the same thing. It's the same thing here. So maybe the sooner that we accept that, maybe the better, right? And we just say, okay, we can grow our league locally and still have the pulling power that we have without needing to care about if somebody from England cares about our league. You know what I mean?
Yep. I said it better myself.
Naturally, you can because I'm perfect. Unless you have anything else you want to add, I think that's probably where we can wrap it up here.
No, I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts. Do you think Saudi is clear? Do you think MLS is clear? Do you not really care? Just let us know, right? Follow us wherever you get your podcast. When our next episode go live, which is going to be, it's going to be a fun game Friday on YouTube. Or our next actual episode is going to be top 10 PK takers. So that will be the next episode. So make sure you subscribe for that. Follow us wherever you get your social media. So, we post our clips and interact with you guys. We love that. We are just 2 subscribers away on YouTube and 5 on TikTok from 2 and 300 respectively. And I think we're like 13 away from 300 on Twitter. Let me double check here really quick.
Getting close to some milestones.
Yep. 17 away from 300 on Twitter as well. So if you're listening to this and you got somebody who enjoys MLS, or soccer in general, have them come subscribe to us, because we are doing some good things. We're getting people upset sometimes, which is okay. But that's kind of how it is. You're not going to make everybody happy, and we're just here to share our ideas and communicate with you guys. Make sure you follow, you share, you tell all your friends, and we will see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players Podcast. See ya.